We're all aware that misinformation is pervasive, but as a scientist who studies how we learn from each other and how our information systems work, I've increasingly come to realize that a much deeper issue is that we're constantly exposed to disinformation, by which I mean misleading content that's deliberately spread by people who usually know it's false in order to achieve some larger aim. What's the aim of disinformation? It varies, of course, but the main focus of most disinformation campaigns is often to instill distrust. Part of this is because they frequently originate from malign actors whose aim is to weaken democracy, and democracy fundamentally requires us to trust each other. But perhaps even more importantly than that, disinformation campaigns want to create people who are easy to influence. And that means people who don't trust the very individuals and institutions that have the knowledge to correct their lies and falsehoods. Because once you have someone who no longer trusts an expertise, that person can be manipulated to believe nearly anything. So, since disinformation is often coordinated and systemic with the goal of undermining trust, what that means is that we need to understand and minimize the weaknesses it preys on. Weaknesses rooted not just in our own psychology, but the psychology and factors underlying our media and our social systems as well. So, what are those weaknesses? A big one lies in how disinformation becomes visible to us in the first place. It's often laundered. That is, ideas are placed on the fringes of our media systems, and then they enter the mainstream by getting powerful people with large platforms to spread them or provoke artificial controversies, which then people talk about. And once lies like this are reported on by mainstream outlets, this creates a catch-22 for experts. Without debunking, the lie spread further, but any debunking is then used as a pretext to further undermine trust and expertise and polarize people even more. The mainstreaming of disinformation has another important effect. When people form beliefs, we decide what factors are important to us based on things like how easily those factors come to mind. But by steering conversations in the information environment, disinformation campaigns control our attention, so we notice some factors and ignore others. As a result, we can often end up deciding things not based on the factors that we actually care about most, but based on the ones that our information environment has made more accessible and salient to us. Now, none of this is new, but disinformation is so much more of a problem today in part because our modern information systems are much easier and much cheaper to manipulate at much larger scales than they were historically. As just one example, we know that people's beliefs are very strongly shaped by repetition. The more we see something, the more we're inclined to find it plausible. This is truly unconscious. It's not something you can reason yourself out of. It's why advertising works, and it's actually quite similar neurologically to why practice makes perfect. But our digital environments, and I don't mean just algorithms, but also influencers, the platforms, bots, troll farms, AI, all of those things, they can easily manipulate how often we're exposed to ideas, or even just framings of ideas, in a way that radically distorts what would happen to us naturally. And the result is we get many more people who are all operating with a set of beliefs and narratives that are not well grounded in our actual shared reality. Fundamentally, all disinformation works by manipulating our emotions. We decide what's important, what makes sense, and what matters to us by consulting our feelings. But many emotions, especially fear and anger, make people less open-minded, less willing to trust others, and more attracted to really simple explanations and strong authority figures. Disinformation campaigns use this. They provoke these emotions in order to erode the sense we're all navigating a complex world together and that we actually share common values and beliefs. So, what's the solution? Honestly, I wish I knew. But I do know that at least part of it is for us to become wise to what's happening. Ongoing and pervasive disinformation campaigns that are designed to undermine our trust in each other. I want you to understand why malign actors would want to do this and how and where we and our systems are vulnerable. I also want you to make a habit of trying to identify the patterns that I've talked about whenever you consume information. Don't just be a blanket skeptic, because that level of distrust only plays into their hands, but instead get used to asking things like, why are you saying what you are? Both the content and the framing. Who benefits from that? And also, what aren't you seeing? And don't assume you're immune to propaganda. None of us are. Don't spend a lot of your time marinating in information cesspools because they absolutely will shape your sense of what is normal and true. Instead, cultivate a diverse diet of trusted sources, both online and offline, and always calibrate what you hear or read against your own sense of logic and what you actually experience in the real world with actual real people that you actually know.